Can you guys hear me?
You can, yes.
Yep.
Good
Uh,
evening. Probably move my mic closer so people can hear me.
Nah, they don't need to hear you.
Yeah, I'm not important.
I hate switching back and forth between Zoom and Teams.
Yeah.
It's simple. We just convert everything over to Teams. It's not too late to do that, right?
Yeah.
Cam, do you want to do the share or do you want me to?
I can do the share.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'm still getting some stuff set up on my end. I moved where my camera is, and so I'm really hoping that it doesn't just like randomly fall down in the middle of this Zoom call. Although that would make things pretty funny.
That would.
That shit up. Cody, do we do screen or the application itself? I'm gonna say application.
Yes, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that looks fine on the smaller screen. So,
Cool.
oh, we got two images of Richard tonight. Okay.
Yeah, maybe not.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get, okay, now I think I'm set. Okay, we ready?
Photo from Suki. This better not be tech support.
I will let
What?
everybody in. Well, at least I think I will.
I'm gonna lose my. All right.
We'll just give it a couple more minutes, everyone, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think we'll get started for our November Zoom meeting. Tonight we're going to start off with careless, reckless, and excessive force fouls. And Cameron and Cody Zip are going to lead you through the presentation. So Cameron and Cody, take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you, Richard. And just to confirm, is
I'm
there
not
anything,
hearing
is
you,
there any, you
Cameron.
cannot hear me?
Cody, can you hear Cameron?
I can hear Cameron, yes.
Oh, maybe it's just me.
Okay. Well, regardless, if Richard can't hear me, that's okay. So this was a request from the last meeting, I believe. So I'm hoping that through this we answer the request, which was basically we've read what's in the laws, but now it's just getting the context of what the laws says. So that's what we're going to try to tackle today. With that being said, we're going over careless, reckless, and excessive force. We have some definitions here for you. Careless, lack of attention or consideration when making a challenge or acts without precaution. No disciplinary action or sanction is needed. Reckless, player acts with disregard to the danger to or consequences for an opponent and must be cautioned. And excessive force is when a player exceeds the necessary use of force and or endangers the safety of an opponent and must be sent off. These definitions straight from the laws. So we go from there. When it comes to force, we have some considerations that we need to think about as well, right? Speed, intensity, the amount of force, whether or not it's a challenge for the ball or there's a possibility to play the ball. What's the point of contact? What's the mode of contact? And whether or not there's a clear movement or second action in the challenge itself. With that being said, okay, we are going to start with careless challenges, okay? All of the clips except for one today that you guys will see are from youth matches. So these are the matches that we are doing on a daily basis. And so we tried to tailor them to not be the professional matches where we're probably not going to work them anytime soon, or we're going to get copyright striked for them. So with that being said, just as a reminder, this is the definition for a careless challenge. And after a second, I will let Cody go over some of the clips that we have for careless.
Alrighty, so to put it bluntly, careless fouls are basically your run-of-the-mill fouls, right? In this example here, red player kind of dives in to try and win the ball, misses the ball, and takes the player and basically trips him, right? There's no force involved. There's no real force or any of those considerations that we need to be looking at when looking at these kind of challenges. They're the basic default kind of fouls, and we can kind of roll through these pretty quickly because I'm pretty sure everyone has a pretty solid grasp on what a simple foul is, which is the terminology that we use often when discussing careless fouls. This one here is a good one with a goalkeeper, just running into the goalkeeper, knocking the ball out of his hands when he already has clear possession. Again, it's a simple foul. It's in the defensive third. Just easy foul coming out. And then we get into the spicy stuff, and the video's a bit choppy, but that's the Zoom quality. A good old push in the back by the goalkeeper to make a fairly simple penalty decision. The only reason we get that view is because I wanted to make sure that the referee was in the picture so we could make a note of, well, yes, that is a penalty. The center referee should probably be a little bit closer to play. And the same with this play as well. Which, again, this is some really good work from the air to help out the center. Whether you agree that it's a foul or not, if you're going to call it, it's a easy, careless foul coming out. Not much there. Then we move on to our last example. After this video finishes. No, or not. Where we have a foul at the midfield leading to an advantage. Which is actually a very good advantage in the scheme of things. And I'm going to ask Cameron to go ahead and run through that one more time, because I don't know if it was just me or that one, but that one was extremely choppy on my end. So if it was extremely choppy on my end, I fear it might have been choppy for everyone else.
We've gone through these videos fairly quickly.
Yes.
If you have any questions or want to see one of these 5 videos that we've just, speed round through, again, please let us know so then we can go back. We did not account for the majority of our time to be spent on these videos because we felt that everyone here is smart enough to know a simple foul, right? Once we start getting into the bigger stuff, the reckless, the excessive force, that's where we have a lot more of a breakdown, where we use a lot more of the considerations that we mentioned at the very start of this presentation. That's where we're going to spend the bulk of our time. So before I move on to reckless challenges, does anyone have any questions about anything that we've just seen? You can either unmute or you can just drop it in the chat. Make sure we get as many questions answered as we can.
Cameron, this is Katie.
Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
Yes, on that very last video clip, looks like there was a foul around midfield. Center ref played advantage. Then did you consider that advantage squandered after the offside call, or would you go back and give that foul at midfield?
So for me, the advantage is that through ball, which leads to an offside, which in my own personal opinion is not the advantage, right? I personally would probably pull it back. I could see both arguments as to why you may pull it back or why you may not pull it back. That one's really a judgment call to the referee.
Thank you.
Yeah. These may not have been the greatest examples of careless challenges, but as me and Cameron were preparing for this, we realized we have absolutely no careless fouls that have been clipped. So these were the best 5 that we could find. So I hope they got the picture across. And it doesn't seem like there's any other questions, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the reckless challenges, or our yellow cards, which, as a reminder, is when a player acts with a disregard to the danger or consequences for an opponent, and they must be cautioned. So Cameron, you want to walk through these?
Yeah, so in this first video, we have a slide tackle that comes in after the ball is already away. There is a decent amount of speed on this challenge. And I'll let this let's play a little bit more. Actually, just kidding. I thought that there was a replay on this. There is not. I'll play it again. All right, to everyone's favorite still image. So remember, we have 4 main considerations, right? We have speed, intensity, force, challenge for the ball, or possibility to play the ball, point of contact, and mode of contact. Who wants to try on this one? Maybe I should ask this a different way. Who wants to volunteer what speed they have? Speed, intensity, force for this challenge.
This as well. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Will.
So based on the quick replay, right? He came in quick from I guess like behind the right side of the player, and it was a very short, quick movement from the defender, and it looked like he came in from the left, but also the trail leg also might have got clipped the player from behind.
Yeah. So what speed would you say that this challenge had?
Quick, fast. I would say that was a hard. If that's what you're looking for, like fast, hard, pretty intense.
Okay. And do you think that this was a challenge for the ball or
No.
so you're saying no for
If it was for the ball, then he has very slow reaction time for the ball.
okay. And you would also say that he has no possibility to play the ball here?
Absolutely. That is exactly what I would say.
Okay. And you kind of touched on point of contact, and mode of contact, but what part of the defender would you say made contact with the attacker?
It looked like I couldn't tell if his studs were up or not, but it looked like definitely the shoe maybe first contacted the outside ankle of the yeah, so it was the back leg. It was his drag leg that came across and swept the player while he was off balance.
Okay. Perfect. So we pretty much agree. Right? We pretty much have a yellow card here, right? As Will said, this was a pretty quick challenge, right? It wasn't really a challenge for the ball or even a possibility to play the ball because that ball's already been played. And the contact, it was basically side of the attacker's foot being made with the top of the defender's foot. But the real determining factor here is the fact that there's no possibility to play the ball, and it does have, some decent force in it. This wouldn't rise to the level of excessive force, but this is still more force than is what is expected in a regular challenge. So we rise to the reckless.
Another thing to keep in mind for this challenge is that it is on the player's planted foot. If it's on his trailing foot where it's not planted, chances are it's not going to be a yellow card type of challenge. It's not going to reach that reckless threshold, but you will absolutely have a lot more damage done to a player if they're hit on their plant foot.
So ignoring what the referee's decision on the field is.
And doing your best with the camera angle you're given.
This is as good as we could get it. But who would like to take this one?
I'll try it.
Go
Basically,
ahead.
the guy's coming in late. He's coming in from an angle that you can't really get the ball without going through the player. He goes through the player. His ball's about to go out of bounds, so it's almost a lunge into the guy. So it's a unnecessary slide tackle without a chance to play the ball. It's not excessive force. It's sufficient force to take the guy down without regard to the opponent's safety, but it's not excessive.
I think you pretty much hit everything there.
Thank you.
So, in an amazing image of someone that's trying to beat the Air Jordan logo, we pretty much have the exact same thing.
We kind of have to guess on the point and mode of contact based on the video and zooming in and going 0.25 speed. But I think that's about the closest we're going to get to the actual point and mode of contact. But I think you hit it right on the head. Any questions on this challenge or in this clip?
Just a question in general, as we go through these 4 criteria. So obviously all 4 does not have to be met, right? Because here you have yes and yes for challenge for the ball and possibility to play the ball, but the other 3 were overwhelmingly in favor of a reckless challenge where you don't need all 4 to be met to give a card, right?
So, in general, the considerations, unlike other considerations, these are a lot of just check boxes, right? A good example is if you go into a challenge and break someone's leg, but you get the ball first, you probably didn't have a clean tackle and you probably should get sent off, right? Because excessive force, and while yes, it was a challenge for the ball and you did win it, you still broke someone's leg, right? Not all of these need to be 100% yes for you to say this is a yellow or that's a red or that's careless or whatever it is, right?
Right.
They are guidelines. Depending on where the point of contact or the mode of contact is, depends on and also depending on the speed, depends on the card. And the challenge for the ball and possibility to play the ball are extra factors that we can use to help guide our decision.
And I agree with you there. And is there a 5th criteria where most of us are probably subconsciously doing it, and that's age and skill level? Like your standards is probably not going to be the same for U9 as it is for U17, right?
So the 5th criteria is clear action or second motion. The criteria you're asking about is more so of a personal opinion, right? I'm not going to say I disagree with you, right? Because a challenge in a U9 game isn't going to be equatable to a U19 game. But at the same time, we are the adjudicators of the law. At U9, it is our job to help educate these players on the laws. At U19, oftentimes, we don't need to educate the players on the law, but we still do. We just don't do it as directly or with as much hand-holding as we do at U9. Cards, communication, man management, those are all instructing the players on how to play within the laws of the game. It's just a different way to go about it.
Another way to look at it is the laws of the game mention spirit of the game. So in a U9 game, the spirit of the game, you're probably in terms of the spirit of the game, chances are there's a better way to deal with it than pulling out a caution. Just having a conversation with the player, pulling the coach over, being like, hey, look, this is what's happening, right? Being an additional teacher on the field. Whereas on U19, the spirit of the game shifts to more more law accurate, if that makes sense.
It does, Cody. Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I do. Yep. Thank you. It just helps to talk it through with fellow refs.
Yep, definitely.
All right. For the last one in Reckless, we're not gonna have a breakdown of this. Because well, I think this one's pretty cut and dry, but there's other things that we can talk about. Thought I edited these videos better. So again, we have a player that uses pretty decent force to challenge a player from behind. He doesn't have the possibility to win the ball. He's making contact with the defenders, or with the, yeah, I guess it would be considered the defender, with the defender's plant leg. And he's coming from behind. Pretty simple, reckless foul. But what I like about this video is that as we watch this back, we
How many let's ask this question here.
Okay.
How many could see this challenge coming?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah,
Big time. He missed the first
yeah,
time.
white player was flailing all over the place.
Yeah. So Cameron, I believe, was going to the point where if we called the first foul, we avoid not only the goal kick, but also the kick. Because he's not going to get him there, but he was absolutely going to get him there. And it all started on the drive down into the corner with that one.
Whether or not you think that's a foul, right? Go off, right? If you don't think it's a foul, that's totally fine. But why not look at where the referee is? Why not tweet, stop play, have a conversation with him? You're already there. You're within 10 yards.
The AR is even closer.
Yeah. Take a few seconds. Talk with the player, right? Then maybe the slide tackle that we end up giving a caution for, maybe that doesn't happen. As an AR, this is where we want you to be involved. This is where we want your voice, being, telling the players to be smart, giving them the subtle cues that you are there, you are engaged, you're watching, your presence is felt, stuff like that, right? There's a whole lot about this that we can avoid just taking a few seconds, talking to the player, or even blowing the whistle.
Also, another thing, we're practically on the end line. White is not going to get the ball. There is no point in going in for that. So for me, it's a very easy just foul coming out, or a very stern talking to the white player and giving them the goal kick, which in this case would be the advantage for them. But this caution, while correct, is definitely an avoidable caution to give if we
on this play
deal with the first one.
We have two cautions on this play. One to the player for the challenge and one to the referee. Right? Because this is, as we've all said, this was something we saw coming. Right? With that being said, now we move on to the fun stuff.
Hold on, before we move on, Cameron, are there any questions about reckless challenges that anyone wanted to get out? Any burning questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Nick.
Nick.
So a fair number of the reckless challenges that I've given out has been just, they used like a normal amount of force, but they went to ground, they were sliding and they missed. And like, whether you were late by a small amount of a second or longer, like you're going in my book for that. Is that And I know that's not the precise standard that you guys have used, but I mean, like, just is that like just totally out there for decision making?
So
I
it
might
sounds
edit
like
it just. I might edit that just slightly, and go with, fouls kind of have levels, right? Kind of like the temperature of the game. So when you're calling or making your foul selection, if there's a foul that feels bigger than all the other fouls that you've had, that's probably one that you should be cautioning, and then thinking in your head through the considerations about, okay, is this card justified by the laws of the game, instead of just it kind of driving that gut feeling a little bit can help in determining whether it's going to be a caution or just a simple foul. Cameron, did you want to add to that?
no, I think you nailed it.
Okay.
All right.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So what happens if it's reckless, but he gets the ball? In one of those tackles where you see that it was reckless, the excessive force, speed, and all that, but he gets the ball and he gets upset because, yeah, but I get the ball. I got the ball. So why are you calling a foul?
So
The way I would go about it is saying, okay, maybe you got the ball, but there's better ways to get the ball than the way you just did it, right? Especially if it's an excessive force challenge.
Yeah.
First off, that's going to be an automatic caution minimum.
Yep.
Even regardless of what he actually did. And then the conversation is, the only reason you're getting a yellow is because you got the ball. If you didn't get the ball, you are getting a red, or
A red,
a conversation
okay. Yeah.
of that sort.
Okay, thank you.
That's how I would deal with it. Maybe Cameron has.
Yeah, no, it
different
makes sense.
advice.
It makes sense.
all right. Moving on. Excessive force, the fun stuff. Reminder, excessive force is when a player exceeds the necessary use of force and or endangers the safety of an opponent and must be sent off. Now, I know that there's a lot of confusion around the type of red cards that we have at times. The most common red card is for serious foul play, right? A tackle or challenge that endangers the safety of an opponent or uses excessive force or brutality and must be sanctioned as serious foul play. And then a little additional splurge at the bottom there. This oftentimes, and I myself am victim to this, gets confused with violent conduct. But violent conduct, which is its own thing, is when a player uses or attempts to use excessive force or brutality against an opponent when not challenging for the ball. So if we have a challenge for the ball, it is serious foul play. If we don't have a challenge for the ball, then we have violent conduct. So a good example I like to use, and this kind of dates me a little bit, if anyone remembers the Premier League game from, I think it was like 2008, where two Newcastle players started fighting each other on the field. That's violent conduct for both of those players, right? Steve Zakawani getting his leg broken is serious foul play. So that is the difference between those two.
Another reason we bring these up is we can see all of the misconduct reports that get written as assigners. Or, well, I don't know if every assigner on NSO can. Myself and Cameron can. And some of the red cards that we read are, okay, yes, you're right, this is a red card, but also, no, this isn't violent conduct, this is serious foul play. So this is another reason why we're kind of bringing up these differences, is because it's not just Cameron who's getting confused with serious foul play and violent conduct. It's several referees in our community. So we figured 2 birds, 1 stone with this presentation.
And before I press next, I feel it's important to mention that these are these are supposedly red card challenges. So I'm going to give a verbal viewer discretion. Okay, we good?
Yeah, Cody, can I add to what you're saying in terms of the language that we use in those match reports and how important it is to be precise, whether it's serious foul play or violent conduct, or not using layman's terms of careless, reckless, or excessive, but using the IFAB definitions, because the league reads that and they may add to suspensions based on your language or reduce suspensions based on your language. So it's important that you use the right verbiage in your match reports, because I've had my son's team, had their suspension increased because, and rightfully so, he deserved it. But it's important that the ref uses the right language.
100% agree. I actually had this conversation a few weeks ago with one of my referee crews about, yeah, we sent a player off for foul and abusive language, but it wasn't foul and abusive language, and we need to correct this information, and we need to make sure that we're also using we need to describe exactly what has happened in the instance that we have issued a misconduct to, but also use verbiage from the laws of the game to support our decision, which is where these considerations come in, is that they help determine whether they'll help support our decision. So sorry for the little tangent there, but we'll get back on track here.
All right. First video. Okay. Do we want to watch it again, or do we want to go straight to, breaking this down? I'll play it
Seems
again.
like we want to go to the breakdown.
Watch it a few more times just to.
No attempt on the ball whatsoever.
Yeah, so I'm really glad you said that. We're on the breakdown now.
It
Little
looks like this
reminder
is
of-
Dean's farewell nod.
I was really proud that I stopped this when I did, because I think that is a fantastic still image. But
I think in American football that's called targeting.
I
yes,
was gonna say that in football, that's out, right?
It's helmet to helmet, Richard. It's helmet to helmet.
yeah.
Exactly.
Dean's farewell nod.
I mean, technically this is helmet to helmet, just
Yeah, yeah.
different context.
And how they define it is hit to the head or the collar and to the head, right? So yeah, it's a targeting.
Yeah, so I think we can. I don't even think I need to call on anyone. I think we all just agree on, yeah, this is excessive force. This is a red card. But now I will pose the question: serious foul play or violent conduct?
I would say serious foul play.
Violent
any-
conduct,
I
not an attempt on
disagree.
the ball.
Violent conduct. The ball was already past him,
A head blow to the
and
body.
he has his back towards the ball, facing the player and taking the player out. There's no way he can get the ball.
So was there at any time in the 1 or 2 seconds before or after this challenge happens, was there a possibility to play the ball?
Not by this player. He did not attempt to play the ball.
So he may not have attempted to play the ball, but the possibility was there. His reaction time might have been very late, but the ball was in the air. You can make the argument he had a chance to head the ball, right? I think that there's an argument there.
Yeah, I agree with KD. I think it was probably the angle of how we are seeing is probably it was different from his angle of the player. He attempted to play the ball, but his reaction was serious.
He
I
did
just
not
wanna
look
point
at the
out-
ball. He went straight to the player.
If this is me in my game, I'm probably giving violent conduct. But I will say that there is a case for serious foul play here because you're not wrong. There is the possibility to play the ball. However, it is a minuscule possibility. But you can defend it. If you decide to go serious foul play with this, you're likely to not have any backlash from it. If you go violent conduct, same thing. This is kind of a fun one because depending on your point of view or depending on how you write your report, depends on what this supports more. Personally, and whether or not I'm correct in this is another thing. Personally, I'm probably going violent conduct. But we have some more fun ones. I say fun. They're fun for me watching it. It's not fun for the person on the receiving end. With that being said, video number 2.
This is the only game that we pulled from a professional league. It was the only one. It was the best one we could get.
I'll play it again. In case anyone's curious, this is the Kenyan Women's Premier League.
Yeah, as a goalkeeper outside the area, raising her arms up and colliding with the player.
But ref, I got the ball.
No, you didn't.
Technically, yeah. This kind of goes back to I think it was Ivan's comment about winning the ball but still committing either a reckless or an excessive force challenge.
Handling the ball outside the area.
Still image showing that she wins the ball. But unfortunately, it's excessive force. Craig, are you asking about the current clip or the last clip?
He's asking about this clip.
Oh, I have no idea if this was serious foul play or Dogzo. But either way, it's a red card. So if you don't have excessive force on this, that's fine. But we have Dogzo, so she still gets sent off. But yeah, no, this is excessive force. That poor attacker gets absolutely steamrolled.
So can I ask you a question, Cameron?
Yeah, go ahead.
If the other player in blue, I would say the offensive player in blue was of the same size as the defender, and they just kind of met and the same weight, would you view it the same way? Because at that point, she wouldn't have fall. I mean, the offensive player wouldn't have fallen down. They would have just met. So I think what's happening here, I could be wrong here, is the fact that we're looking at the size of the player, right? And then we're essentially, I mean, this has happened to my daughter because she's a little bigger and intimidating. She gets a lot of foul call. And I'm like, it's just because of her size. We tend to, in my head, if you're playing up, if your team is playing up, you have to also understand that, all right, I know you want to give your team some exposure, right? But when something like this happens, we tend to be a little bit more harsher to the person bigger and stronger. But if they were the same size, I think the impact would not be the same. We wouldn't view it. That's kind of one thing I've always thought. I could be wrong here, but that's kind of how I view it.
So I would argue that the two players in this video are roughly the same size.
Okay.
The reason the goalkeeper looks bigger is because she is jumping in the air to make this challenge.
Stop. Okay.
When you're
So
on the
while
ground,
she's in the air, she's jumping into the player, which is causing a lot more force because two players running into each other on the ground
Yep.
is very different than one player on the ground and one jumping into them. Because the
So
one
in this
jumping
case,
in
she makes
will have-
contact. She makes contact with the ball, right?
the goalkeeper
Goalkeeper,
wins the
correct.
ball here. Yes.
Okay. All right.
it is a lot easier. It's a lot easier to shift weight and therefore power when the two players are on the ground and they run into each other, as opposed to one player's in the air where they have no possibility to stop their weight and power going into a player, and one player is still running on the surface.
In a
So
collision,
one player can
those who
shift their
approach
weight,
with
the other
most
can't.
velocity win.
You know, but
That's the
again,
cases in
if you
auto
look at
accidents as well.
if you look at this, if this was a tackle, and the person had made contact with the ball, at that point, that changes the way you call it, correct?
If this is a
But-
challenge
but-
on the ground, it's a completely different decision because it's a completely different challenge.
Yeah.
Is that's basically what you're saying, right?
Right.
Okay. So yeah, if this is on the ground, this is a completely different challenge, and we wouldn't be immediately saying red card. But because of the way that this challenge ends up happening, where we have a goalkeeper jumping up and into an attacker after she wins the ball and uses excessive force, we don't have that, right? We have a excessive force challenge where yes, the keeper wins the ball, but she used excessive force because she's in the air and she's hitting a player that's on the ground. And then I didn't realize this until after we started the presentation, but I should have asked if this was serious foul play or dogzo. But yeah, either way, it's a red card. Would you see this as serious foul play if it happened in the penalty area?
If this
That is an
exact
excellent
same
question.
challenge happened in the penalty area, probably
I
yes.
imagine that yes, it would be the exact same challenge, just inside the penalty area. In which case, yeah.
That happens often at times with a goalie and attacker, right? The goalie is trying to prevent the attacker from scoring. And then the attacker is essentially trying to, that often happens, either punch the ball or if this was on the ground, which a lot of them are, which I've seen, it's on the ground, right? Do we penalize? Often at times we give the goalie the benefit here. I mean, I see this was excessive, but on the ground, you give the goalie a lot more benefit. I don't know. This is an interesting one. I had one kind of similar to whereby I was like, and the guy was like, he was looking for a penalty call. And I'm like, well, the goalie was going for the ball. You were trying to score, and he got to the ball first before you. And he thought maybe he could have got a penalty out of it. I'm like, I'd like to give you a penalty, but I don't think this merits a penalty.
So as long as you use the considerations for the given moment, you will inevitably come to the correct answer. Is I think essentially what you're what you're
Yeah.
saying.
You know, I check with my AI that's close to the house. I'm like, do you think we should give a penalty here? Because he thought, you know, they were behind. I said, well, when you're behind, you're always trying to find a way to get a penalty kick. I'm like, no, I'm not going to give you one. The goalie is equal access to the ball, you know. Yeah, it's one of those scenarios whereby you have to use your judgment. But yeah, this is certainly a serious foul play, I think. But I was looking at his size. I was like, you know, if you watch that video in full force, you know, like in real life, you're like, oh, wait a minute. You know, it looks like he just smothered that other goal. So yeah, it's interesting.
Okay, how many more clips do we got here, guys?
I got 2 more, but I might skip one of them. Just for the sake of time. Does that work?
Yep.
All
Or
right.
we can see if we can get both in.
All right. Well, thankfully this next one should be pretty simple. Play it again. So I asked earlier about serious foul play and violent conduct, and I've asked that on every single video that we've watched so far. What do we have for this one?
Violent.
Violent
Violent
conduct.
Oh yeah,
Does
violent
anyone
conduct?
disagree with violent conduct?
No.
Who?
No, I said I don't think that you can disagree with that.
He only kicked one leg. Come on.
There's
So
2 red
if we
cards
have
given.
violent conduct, which player or players are we giving violent conduct to?
99, right there.
99 white. Okay.
Yeah. And then potentially the red one that pushed him on the back, and then the other one who got into the field, onto the field.
I'm giving violent conduct to white 99, but I'm not giving that to the red who's to me, that's your garden variety protecting your teammate shove. That's not it doesn't rise the level of excess.
Gets a
So-
caution.
It's
Wait,
a caution, yeah.
Even though
But
he
it's
was a
not a red.
substitute, even though he was a substitute player.
So
You
I
can
will.
either
think-
give
I
it
think
for
they're
entering
talking
field
about a
without
yellow card
permission or
to-
for the follow-up.
This guy.
Yeah,
Oh,
You get-
okay. I'm
yeah,
talking
you
about
do
the
get
right.
punishment,
Okay.
right?
on the back.
Yeah, I could see that. I thought you're because I would give a red card to the guy who came off the bench also.
Yeah, the one on the bench. That's
Yeah.
that's
This guy.
that's a red. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 99 and the guy on the bench. Okay. Makes sense.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will say, what a joy to witness this live, by the way. What a great experience that was.
Oh, I went the wrong direction. Yeah, so pretty simple. Violent conduct to white 99 and the player that came off the bench. And then if you really wanted to, you could give the caution to the player in red that pushes him in the back. But I think that's if that's, you know, the battle that you want to pick. I think you're fine not giving the yellow, to the red player that pushes him in the back. But regardless, 2 red cards, correct outcome. Final video that we got for you.
Can I ask a
And
question
you know
on the last
it's-
one?
Go ahead, Nick.
The red card for the substitute player.
Yeah.
What's the report written up on that?
Closed fist to the face.
Okay.
I mean, we can tell you what exactly was written up because we have the report. But you can do it either with illegally entering the field and illegally exiting the field, coming off of the bench for to participate in a mass con, fist to the face or closed fist to the face, which is what the report actually states, which is the one that's going to be easier to uphold as a red card. Either of those. Your best
didn't
bet
see-
would be just describing the fact that he came off of the bench and, you know, made contact with an opponent's face who was on the field.
I didn't see clear the punch to the face on the video. However, if he had just come up, if he had just pushed the guy coming off the bench, would that be a caution or would it still be a red?
If you come off of the bench to participate in a mask on, it's a red card.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Does that answer your question, Nick?
Yes.
Fantastic. So once again, for this final clip, we are reminding the differences, or well, mostly just reinforcing what we've already talked about. This one, I'll just give you the answer. This final clip, it's serious foul play. With that being said, and don't worry, there will be lots of replays on this. Of course, it buffers. Do we need to see it again, or are we good to move to the breakdown? I'm going to move to the breakdown for the sake of time. Two different still images. Take your pick for which one is the point of impact or point of contact and mode of contact. Who wants to take this one for their considerations?
Hard stud up slide from a distance with high force, high speed coming in. Excessive force.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything different?
No, another correct diagnosis by Dr. Plum.
He is a doctor after all. Correct diagnosis are what we expect from him.
That's how I build my patient load.
Yeah, so this is a red card. All right, we have an excessive force challenge. Yes, it's a challenge for the ball, and the possibility to play the ball is there. The point of contact is the shin and the calf, and the mode of contact is the shin and the knee. But with the amount of force that is used in this challenge, it is still excessive force. There's no clear second action. This is a red card.
And spoiler alert, this is a leg-breaking challenge. This kid spent a week in the hospital and needed emergency surgery because of this challenge.
Legs do not bend like this.
Yikes.
Right.
And I will swiftly move that off of the screen so we aren't staring at it. Also, fun little tidbit. This player's shin guard was snapped in half. The player on the receiving end of this challenge, shin guard snapped in half. You can't get that unless there's excessive force. So if you, for example, give a yellow card on this challenge and you see that the shin guard is snapped in half, that might be an indication that you might need to go to VAR.
If it's available in the league. Which it's not. So
I have about 4 questions on this.
You have a bunch of questions. All right. What you got?
So if you handed out a yellow card and then you saw that the shin guard was broken, that means you guys would support changing to a red. Is that correct?
I do not condone going back and retroactively changing decisions based on the damage that was caused. However, sometimes it's necessary. If you have a yellow card on this challenge and you see the shin guard is snapped, you should probably change the decision.
Okay.
So there was a kind of similar scenario that happened, and it's not as bad as this. Both girls were going for jump ball, and they kind of came down, and then one of the other girl just kind of landed awkward, but they landed on the other girl, and then her shin guard, I mean her shoe kind of initially it didn't look as bad. There was no, all of a sudden later on there was a little bit of blood coming out from that girl's knee. Do you I'm not sure what you do in that scenario, because initially it was both girls going for a header, landed back down awkward. There was nothing malicious, but for both kids. But one of the girls, soccer shoes just kind of need to go somehow and cause some bleeding. And it was weird because I was kind of on the sideline watching it. I was like, oh, this is weird. It doesn't look bad, but then all of a sudden it looks really bad. Do you turn around and, like you say, change that to a yellow, or
I think context matters here.
Okay.
You can start bleeding from sliding on the turf. So you have to be, so if the challenge that happens, if a challenge happens and there's no possible way that blood that's coming out of a player should be coming out of a player based on the way that the challenge happened, either A, because there's not enough force, or B, because it is in a spot that the challenge did not touch, that would be context to say, okay, something different happened. My example with going back and changing the decision on this one, because a yellow card was given on this final clip, it has to be something incredibly extreme for me personally to support an official going back and changing their decision. In this case, in my opinion, a snapped in half shin guard is extreme enough to say, okay, that doesn't happen without excessive force. I clearly missed something. And as Jeff stated in chat, maybe I need to go talk to my AR and get a different picture because I missed something here.
My snapshot is off.
Yep, my snapshot is off. There's no way a shin guard getting snapped is a yellow card. That doesn't happen. Shin guards, although they make them super tiny now, they're still pretty decent pieces of equipment.
So Cameron, in terms of mechanics then, would it be better when you see a play like this and a player is down with an injury to go check on the player, see the result of the injury before showing a card? Or is it better to show immediate card knowing that, yeah, you saw that it's unequivocal you're getting card, then go check on the player? Which is the better mechanic?
I think if you have if this is Desna Cup, you're showing the card first. If this is in a youth game, you have the ability to show sympathy, to show empathy to the player that has just been absolutely clobbered. Now, I am not saying that you should take the time when you're supposed to be showing sympathy and empathy to this player to assess their injury yourself, because we are not Mr. Plum. We are not doctors. We do not assess their injuries. We should not be using the time that we're checking on these players to assess, dang, that leg's the wrong direction. Now, if we end up getting that context while we're checking on the player, different story. But the sole reason that we go over to check on the player should not be to determine whether or not a red card challenge occurred or not. that should have been done when the challenge happened. We can't rely on going back and, getting retroactive information. We have to rely on what we see in the moment. And if we're not seeing something in the moment, we either A, need to change our positioning, B, need to change our proximity, C, need to, find a better angle, whatever it may be. But the initial decision should always come from live play. The correct outcome from this is to have a red card when the challenge happens.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Cameron. I mean, I think all of us saw this clip, and I think all of us should be going with red just based off of the way the play developed. I think, Cameron, you also made another good point in regards to that. You can't always wait to show what misconduct you're going to give, because otherwise you're going to end up with a mass con like we saw in the previous video, because they're going to think that you're indecisive and you're not taking care of the problem, so they'll take care of it for you. So it's really about, luckily, and I really appreciate these youth clips that you guys shared with us today, because these are the games that all of us are officiating on the weekends. And, we don't think you're going to see this last play. You only see that in the pros. Well, here it is, somebody who is absolutely not taking into account the opponent's safety in any way, shape, or form. They're going in to get that ball at all costs, to take it from that player. And at all costs, all of us should be pulling a red card immediately. Anybody else have any questions for Cameron or Cody on these? Nick, do you got more?
Yes. Same play, but a different point of contact. Where would you draw the line for giving a different misconduct? So let's say he'd hit the bottom of the foot.
So I think, Nick, it gets back to the part where this is excessive force. And excessive force is going to trump where you get hit, in my opinion.
Then my question is, what if it was the same play, but he made no contact? Because the other player is like, I'm not going to risk a broken leg.
So if he makes no contact, my personal opinion is a foul for the player who avoided the challenge, and then a minimum of a caution and a very stern talking to. And that is the least that I will be doing. Because this is not a challenge that anyone wants in the game. This is not a soccer challenge. This is almost brutality in a sense.
Because remember, the laws state kicks or attempts to kick, trips or attempts to trip is what our bar is for a foul. Now, we have some leeway with that, right? Because the law book is paperback and it bends. But if there's no contact made, we're at least looking at a yellow card.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, I just have a quick question here. Maybe Cameron or Richard can take this on. When you have a player trying to fake a foul, can we give them the yellow as well?
So that would be simulation, and that is a yellow card offense. Yes.
So you can, okay. Especially in the box. Okay. Got it.
And Richard, you asked the question about abandoning the game based off of a challenge like this, and I'm not seeing anywhere in this game where I'm feeling like the temperature is you have a game out of control. You just had a player out of control, and that red card should probably resolve that for you. Now, since this ref only gave a yellow card, his game may have began going down the tube faster than it should have. And then maybe you're getting into the questions about abandonment, but that's really because I don't think that they applied the laws of the game correctly.
I would also add to that, one challenge like this is probably nowhere close to being the level to where we want to abandon a game. If this is like your third or fourth challenge like this, you should the thought should be kind of creeping in about abandoning, because it's clear that if it's your third or fourth challenge, they clearly don't want to play soccer. They just want to kill each other.
I think you have a hard case to sell if you abandon the game after this single challenge. And I think since this happened on me and Cody's game, and since this is also on an academy game, me and Cody, as much as we love to support the referees that are working our games, we would find it really difficult to support the decision to abandon the game on this. If this happens in the last 2 minutes of the game, you're not abandoning it. The time just elapsed, right? But this was about, actually, I think it was roughly 10 minutes into the second half. I don't see enough there to warrant the game being abandoned. I would find it hard to back up the fact that it should be abandoned. But every game is different. And I would also just, pay attention to what Cody and Richard already said about the temperature. And, if this is Desna Cup, then the game might actually be abandoned because you might have to run to your car.
And this is why you show the red card before you check on the player, to avoid having to run to your car. Just small little things that get you through Desna Cup.
Okay, I appreciate everyone hanging out a little bit longer tonight to get through this one. If you had any burning questions for me, don't hesitate to drop me an email or text, and I'll get them answered. Our next month's meeting actually falls on Christmas, so we won't have a Zoom meeting in December. And then in January, that meeting actually will be our annual general meeting. And so some information will be coming out on that. We are planning on doing that one in person. That's where we also elect our half of our board. And so that's the fourth Monday of the month. We'll have it somewhere in the Renton, Tukwila area. And so hopefully we'll get to see everybody's face at the meeting itself, and help participate in selecting officers for the next year or two. So with that, thanks again, everyone. Cameron, Cody, thank you. I love the youth clips. That was fantastic tonight. I appreciate it. And we'll see everybody out on the pitch soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Cameron, Cody, Richard, thank you.
Richard, you got a second after everyone pops out?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, I think it's just us.
All right.
It is.
Do we want to? Is the recording stopped or?
No.